check this out. I got the 18 millimeter knife, the AvE knife. I don't know what it's called. It's the smaller one. It's pretty cool. As you can see, I have flame anodized the entire thing. It is pretty sick nasty. Now, it's not perfect. I don't have a torch. I do not own a torch, so it was pretty difficult getting it kind of like even. I used a propane camp stove. It's not nearly as saturated in real life as it looks on camera. It's a lot duller, so it's kind of like pretty dark with these nice silvery stainless steel screw accents. And this thing too is kind of a lighter accent. But it looks really cool. It looks like it's, you know, an old kind of piece of machinery or whatever. I got this as a gift for someone for Christmas. It's not Christmas yet, but you'll probably be seeing this after Christmas, I assume. So I'll let you know how much the person I got this for likes it. It's pretty nice, but there's definitely some little weirdnesses to it that maybe a next revision could fix, possibly. But this is a really cool knife, and I would totally buy one of these for myself, maybe. This is my current EDC knife, the young Chinese CJRB, I think. I don't know who makes this, but it's really nice. I like it a lot. It's comfortable. It's big. And it like kind of flicks out, as you saw. It's kind of weird. You can't really close it with one hand, but you can flick it out like that with one finger. It's really nice. I like it. I like the color. I like the feeling of the grip. Can kind of get in there. But this is the unlock right here, and I don't know, it's kind of like weird. I just don't like the idea of like the blade closing like that. I like the idea of out the front knives more. I would definitely consider getting one of these. So anyway, when I got this thing, it comes, you know, as like a kit, and it's all laser cut, and it's like, this is kind of how it is when you get it. It's like really super rough. Like, look at this. Laser blasted through the metal, and it's just super rough and sharp edges, razor blade edges all around. And I don't really have like power sanding tools of any kind, so this is completely hand finished with sandpaper, which I also barely have any. I think I started with 60 grit, then did 150, and then I think I had one piece of like 300 grit, and then I finished it with the one piece of 800 grit sandpaper that I own. And I got all the little like burr bits off mostly. They're still kind of there. You can kind of still see them. You can kind of see like where the pointy bits would be right there. And I was kind of able to smooth them out by hand. But yeah, it was a major pain. Yeah, like right there, you can really see that one kind of still sticks out. But it's nice and smoothed off now, so it's pretty good. The whole thing, it feels very good and smooth. I'm very surprised how not sharp any of the edges are. I feel like initially, maybe I should have done some kind of sanding on this piece, like where it interacts with the, you know, the locking mechanism kind of thing, because it was pretty stiff, and originally it didn't want to like go in. It would kind of get into this like weird canted over position, and it would just kind of slide, and it wouldn't ever lock in to the indexing point. But after I just played with it for like 3 days, it's fine now. So one of the big problems with this knife, I've noticed, it's not necessarily a problem. It's only really a problem when you have a fresh blade in. So like, let's say you go and you cut something and you just retract it back. You got about a 50% chance that you're going to get into this one, the second from the last hole. And when your blade is in that second from the last hole, the blade is sticking out ever so slightly. And if I just push on it, you can see it totally sticks out. Just a tiny bit, but that's enough to cut something. So let me demonstrate that for you. Remember, the blade is like just barely out, like just a tiny bit, but that's like, boom, look at that. Totally slice that right open. Not good. So this problem will happen every 3 notches, I noticed. So like right here, this is the first one, and I go out 1, 2, 3 more. So right here, You probably can just barely see it, but the same amount of blade is sticking out. In fact, it might be even a little tiny bit more. And then 3 more notches. 1, 2, 3. Same thing. The reason it isn't really a problem out here is because when you're down to this point with the blade, when you've broken the blade off, you know, and you retract it, you're only gonna have this much blade sticking out. You're not gonna have the whole blade. When I just brought this in, I didn't intentionally do this, but I only brought it to that second to last one, which is where it's sticking out a little bit. Minor issue, maybe you could figure out a different spacing and geometry for this where that doesn't happen at all, but I don't know. There's probably a way to do it, maybe. Alternatively, just make the whole front slightly longer in general. The second issue that this has is kind of minor. So up here in the front, you can see these, because there's no screw, they kind of want to not touch each other. And I feel like that's going to like get caught in between something at some point and just spread the whole thing apart. Like I can get my fingernail in there and it clearly bends. That's no good. They're all thinner at the front because it's hand sanded, so like I can't really avoid that. But the main thing is the titanium bit, the really thin one, because it's such a thin piece of metal, it actually can be like bent in and out. Let me just show you what I mean. Right there. And me just pushing on it. Now it's okay if it bends in towards the knife, not really that big of a deal, but so right here, you can see how easily that kind of bends out. I'll give you a side view. Look at that. I feel like it's very possible that over time that could like possibly break off, maybe. I don't know, but that's pretty easy to fix. I would just say extend this whole front section out more, maybe the whole way. Like you don't really, when you're gripping on this, do you need that like section there? I think it would make more sense to just have it continue out. Like it looks cool. It definitely looks cool with that bit there, but another screw in there would stop the separation at the front, and it would stop that little bit from twanging around. So this is the biggest problem. So when you put this in your pocket and you bring it back, you got a very high chance that it's going to stick here between the, I don't know what you'd call this, like the place where the button comes out and the last notch. So obviously you want it right here. That's where it should go. But more than likely, it's going to get popped in the middle between those two. And the only thing that's stopping it from going back more is the button, thing that holds the blade in. It's like almost completely down. Like it's barely being held up. And I could probably take this apart and then push the spring bit kind of inwards more to kind of give it more spring pressure. But right now, because it's not being pushed up enough, and because the gap in this part is so big, it takes like no pressure. When this is back all the way, it takes basically no pressure. Look, click, a little click, and now, boom. That's definitely gonna happen in your pocket. Now, luckily, that won't happen unless it's all the way back in that halfway goofy position. If you actually have it locked in, it won't do that. What's the solution to that? More better springy thing. Maybe change this up a little bit, this part, make it have a smaller gap. So that way you have to actually push it down further to make it unlock the blade. And also, this would solve the other problem with the blade kind of sort of sticking out. Just break off the first blade. Don't carry it with the first blade in there. Because then that way, whenever you go to retract it, you have like 3 positions where it's safe without the first blade. So you have a 1 in 3 chance of actually getting it into a locked notching position. Besides those minor issues, I think it's really cool. And I personally, I would definitely consider carrying something like this. Maybe if it was a little bit different, you know, maybe if the design was a little bit more refined. I'm not necessarily a fan of like the aesthetics of this. I do like my anodizing color situation. It's kind of cool. If I did it personally, I think I might just keep it stainless completely, maybe just anodize, you know, 1 or 2 pieces. but I think that the person that I got this for is gonna like it, and I like it too. I think this is probably better than a normal pocket knife, because like nobody wants to sharpen a pocket knife, and you actually want to use your pocket knife. So all my pocket knives, they break, they get, you know, worn, they're super dull, and they get kind of gross, because at some point I'll cut something gross that sticks to it that stays stuck on it forever. With this, you don't have that problem. You can just change the blade right out, no problem, easy. And the blades are cheap too. That's my review and criticisms. I do wish it didn't like get into this weird, look at that. Like it'll go and fully extend without locking into one of the positions when it gets into this like tilted spot. And it only does it sometimes. Now I think that could be fixed maybe by chamfering, maybe sanding that little edge where it locks on the button itself. I'm not totally sure. But it's really not that big of a deal. One last thing. I was going to etch the back of this with some initials, but the area was too small for me to be able to, like, I couldn't draw the letters. I didn't have enough room for the 2 letters. I could have only fit 1 letter. So maybe if this was extended out and there was just one more screw at the very front, that could be a nice big metal area for, like, you know, etching. Yeah, I definitely think this is cool. Good Christmas gift. You know, sort of somewhat handmade. I definitely spent many hours sanding and probably like an hour and a half holding each part over a camping stove to anodize it. Never anodized anything before in my life, so I think I did a pretty good job. I kind of wish I could have gotten a more even blue. You can see up in this one spot I got a really nice deep purple, but that's the only place on the whole knife that got that nice deep purple. So I don't know what happened there. But yeah, cool knife review. Probably the only knife review I'll ever do on this channel. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe I'll become a cutlery guy. Perhaps you could call me a lover of cutlery or something.